Deep thoughts from the forest. Wow. Katie's got a lot to say about the forest right now. What? And you can hear the water. Because we just had some rain. I often get like a phrase in my head and it will go away once I hear it. And that the saying or phrase, nothing changes more than the past. This has been stuck in my head for a while since I heard it. And I was like, oh yeah. Because if you really start looking into history and all the history that has been left out, and, we get a very cleansed version of history in our schooling and the standards of history. And there's so much left out. And what's really interesting too is that there's one reality and a million ways to perceive it. And I find it's interesting watching and paying attention to people who are focused on different aspects of history and this reality. And those people will find whatever they're looking for. Like they get a hint of something and then it's like a thread and they just start pulling on it. And then there's so much that comes forward. So, and I've seen this over and over. It is a very common characteristic. So what is this reality? If we have all kinds, like there's a man who you wrote about in the 1900s, his name was Charles Fort. He wrote about these anomalies that happened because he started getting fascinated with some of these stories that were always dismissed as being like, oh, whirlwind or something like that. But there were strange things that fell from the sky over and over and over. And strange rains, different colored rains, blood rains, which is soil, earth, iron, creatures falling from the sky. And they'd always, put it into like, oh, well, maybe a whirlwind picked them up and then dropped them off somewhere. There was always kind of this dismissal of it. And he actually wrote a book about it called The Book of the Damned, which sounds like an evil book, but it's not. The damned means that which is ignored and left out. That's what he means by damned. That a lot gets left out of our history. So our frameworks, our frames of reference can be all distorted. So no wonder why this reality has us going, up, down, every which way, and confused. And when you start looking at cycles, there is a lot of repetition that happens with history. One thing I've noticed, and I don't hear other people talking about it, but there is like a consistent, through time, since the 1800s, this, and maybe back even further, but definitely notice it in the 1900s, is that there is like, if we don't change our ways, this total destruction will happen. And we're in, I'm reading this book from the 1900s that talks about how we're living in the very materialistic age, which is like, no, we're living in the age of Aquarius. And it's like, no, we're living in the age of Aquarius now. So, and there's always these threats from the outer, those who want to control history, which, there's a lot of evidence of these, few family bloodlines that want to control a lot of our information. And, you can say that's conspiracy. Well, it is actually fact if you just go in and look. you can see these families and their attempts to shape and control narratives. And that's happening today. It gets passed down through the generations. They also represent the big companies that are controlling information. I mean, you know, I hear all the time about people's families and this and that being just like so distraught over the news. And it's like, your news is captured. Your news is shaped by someone. And now we have, a visual additive, the AI visuals, which is like giving us imagery. And once we see it, do we go, oh, is that real or not? We're fooled. So fools don't get fooled again. I'm a fool me once kind of person. This this thing that's what? This thing that started with history, going down these rabbit holes, started because of 9/11 for me. Like, what was that? Okay, whole buildings just falling and then going to war, and then we always find out later, oh, guess what? There was a psyop, counter psyop around creating this war because these controllers also are in the military weapons game. And they want to keep the business going. You can't just stop making weapons. You're making so much money off it, So we have to recognize the businesses, the interests behind all our information. It's really important because this reality is amazing. We can find all kinds of anomalies, all kinds of magic. There's all kinds of ways to actually work with this reality and change and shift your history in the past. You can work with other realms like the ancestral realms and past life realms. There's so much magic, but we have to tune into our own intuition, and that is the guide of okay, is this real information or fake information, or is this information trying to shape my emotions and giving me what I should think. If I'm a good person, I should think this way. And that is really it's really emboldened a lot of people to judge others. And that's what they want. They just want us hating each other and being like, oh God, she's this or she's that. And I won't take any sides because I recognize the psyop around the psyop, counter psyop. I recognize. Sorry, my cat is really chatty. You're so chatty. What you got to say? Huh? What's happening? Oh my God, he's ow, ow, ow. He's climbing my leg. Oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah, so it started with 9/11, and then after COVID, I was just like, the corona. Sorry, you can look at the 2012 opening Olympics ceremony and see the ritual for COVID. Everything is this is a planned thing. So we got to get into our own realities and our own quests. Quest for your health, the quest for peace and being centered, and the quest for creating good community. Because that's what we got. That's what we're really working with.